Hi everyone. My name is Irina Zaks. I'm web developer and open source evangelist. I believe that we're here to do good things. And today we're going to talk about tools that are available for content migration in Drupal in 2019. This is something that changes very quickly, and we want to make sure that we give you latest and greatest, even though I have to tell you that latest and greatest will change 3 weeks from now. I want to be very clear about format of this presentation. We're going to do we're going to talk about use cases first. We're going to do an overview and comparison of Feeds and Migrate. We're going to do demo. And then I want to open it for question and answers and concentrate on the technical part. So first half an hour is probably going to be less technical. At the end, if you have very technical questions, you're cordially invited to participate. There's a Never Advanced Migrate presentation conveniently scheduled at the same time, so it would be nice if we can combine our forces. We do use live demo, so things will break as we are doing the demo. Just beware. So before we dive into presentation, we want to step back, and we do want to look at why we have a website, what we're doing, what's its mission. And before we talk about very specific technical details, there's why we're doing it. And we're doing it because the website is supporting organization. It's not organization is supporting website. Website's mission is to support organization and its goals. And organizations change and websites change all the time. And there is content that is generated by organization, and there's also all kind of things happening around that you want to bring into your website. So we have content that needs to be on the website. It has various formats. It can have various sources. And there's sometimes you want to do one-time migration, from old to the new one, and sometimes you want to have periodic updates. And this is the data that you want to move around. So in Drupal 7 we had different tool set. In Drupal 8 we have different tool set. So we're going to look at what we have today and what we would like to have 6 months from now. So if I need to move content into Drupal 8 from Drupal 7 or Drupal 6 or Drupal 7, there is a one-click upgrade that kind of works. You have to do lots of clicks before you do this final one click, but it works. We have Feeds module, and we have Migrate suite. And of course, developers will tell you that they will write custom script because it's much quicker and much more efficient, except for the time when you have to write 23 custom scripts, and by the time you could have coded a model that will cover all the cases. And of course, everything needs to be done yesterday. So this is kind of overview of use cases that we're going to be talking about in detail. One very typical case is we're doing migration. We have website, it's either 6 or 7, or it can be some other sources, custom databases, other systems, WordPress, whatever. And here we have data source that is clearly defined. Then we need to take data, process it in some way, and then we're going to put it into our new website, which we have or we are building. And this is for this case, I'm going to be using word migration as a convenience word, right? As definition. And it works well when you're moving stuff from old site to new site. I'm going to be using word import for more regular imports, like RSS integration, bringing content from other departments, from other websites, right? In this case, you have your own website that exists, that has predefined information structure. So you already have all the fields, everything is already defined. And you take data from someone else, you need to massage it and put into your existing containers. And in this case, what's happening is you will have different data sources every time. While in migration, you have one single clearly defined data source. Okay? So this works well when we are doing integration of content. I work in higher ed mostly, so we would want to bring in courses, information profiles from different institutions, from different departments, and have them in one container. Now let's talk about, so these are our use cases, right? Now let's talk about what tools we have for either one. So historically, Drupal has two major frameworks. One is Migrate module and one is Feeds module. Migrate module has been developed and is still used mostly by developers, and it is used for lots of very complex migrations, chain migrations, where things depend one on another. The big difference with Drupal 8 is that Migrate module is now in core. It's used, one-click migration is based on Migrate module. But if you want to do a migration, you need to code it. And you need to code it, you need to commit it in code. You can use it with Brush. And it has some limited UI that you probably can invoke if you need to sometimes. And you can run some migrations through UI, but you can't change anything. And the implication is that if you want to change something in your migration, you have to go back to developer need to recode it, and then you need to push it to your production site. And this is a major challenge. Not to mention that site builders are treated like stepchild in some way, and so it's not a very efficient way of running for lots of use cases. There are modules that provide limited UI for Migrate module, but Migrate is a very, very powerful module, and so it is very difficult to write UI that will cover all the cases. So that's the Migrate story. Now we have Feeds module that site builders love. You can configure, it's very powerful in Drupal 7, it has all kinds of configuration. It allows you to define all the mappings through UI. Everything is done through UI. Everything that you need to do, you can do through UI. You can use any format, any data formats. You can fetch from files, and you can schedule and say if you need to run regular imports, you can all schedule it through UI. With Migrate module, you also can schedule cron jobs. It's not like it can't do it, but it is just much more complicated. So historically, Feeds was used by site builder, and one of the great things about Feeds module is it separates site building from actual bringing content in. So if I build the feed, say news feed, that brings news from Stanford main site into different departments, we can allow content editor in each department to decide what do they want to bring. And it can be changed within 30 seconds if they got some training, because they need just to paste correct URL in the field like where you do URL. And so this all sounds great. I think we're going to do a quick demo of modules workflow, so we can look at what is available and what we're trying to do with Feeds Migrate. So if we want to add feed type, we're just saying add feed type. We have options to, here is where we're configuring how it's being loaded, what are formats, and we can decide what processors we can have here. And you can see that in Drupal 8 we have more than just node, taxonomy, and user. It allows you to work with more entities.
Can you pull up the screen a little bit?
I can try. Hope it will work. Yes. Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you.
Love it. And then once you decide whether you wanted to update existing items to replace, you can request authorization or say, no, don't authorize, we don't care about it. And you can say who is owner of the feed, you save it, and then you can add mapping that will show you what field goes where in the source and in the target. Okay, so this is classic Feeds workflow. This presentation is not about Feeds itself, it's more like what are we doing with Feeds Migrate and why it is a win-win solution. So also Feeds allows you to temper things, which Migrate does with processors, and here we do it with plugins. So this all looks wonderful. And this is like big overview of like how these modules compare. So the question is, now we have great, wonderful, very powerful module in core. So we don't need to do anything. We have all processors. We have all libraries like JSON and XML libraries are sitting already in there. And then we have Feeds that has great UI and it's very, very well tuned for also site builders. Like, why don't we put it all together? It seems so logical. Well, the reason why it took us so much time because it's not as simple as it seems. However, during last year and a half, we made huge progress, and Feeds maintainer Yuri Van Hoppen and Migrate maintainer Lucas hadn't connected, and there are lots of people who got involved and developers and volunteers. I'm going to talk about where we are today and what we're hoping to achieve within the next 6 months. So, meet Feeds Migrate module. It is posted on Drupal.org if you want to download it and try it. I want to thank all the avantgarde developers before we dive into the details, even though normally we put thank you slide at the end, but without these people, nothing would move. And the first version that was written by Mike Decker, Bookmish, he's 2 doors down, and say, hey Mike, come see what we've done with your module. He says, no, I'm sorry, I'm very busy. So we've been doing a lot of presentation at different camps, and every camp we say, oh, somebody gets very excited and say, hey, I can contribute, I can find some time. And this has been like huge inspiration for me to keep working on this module, community participation. So this is what we are trying to give to Feeds Migrate module. On one side, it's completely integrated with the Migrate. So if you have a Migrate done by a developer and you put the Feeds Migrate module on top of it, it will access all the features that were built in there. So you don't have to rebuild this migration. At the same time, it's bring UI that is tuned for site builders, and therefore, it's like we're marrying the best of both worlds. And it also works with existing Drupal distribution. And there are specific use cases where we wanted this module to work, but we're going to be using site farm distribution that is used by all UCs can be used for their websites, which works great for academia. And we will show that you can put Migrate on top of that module and it will just work. Okay? Okay, so now we're going to enter the danger zone. I'm going to do that's what it says that I'm supposed to do. So we're going to do a live demo of Feeds Migrate. On the Pantheon site, I want to say Pantheon for providing amazing support for us in every single project that we ever run, and specifically on this project as well, because I think thank you is very important when we work on open source. So this is new UI for Feeds Migrate. It lives under migrations. You need to set migration groups, and then you can add a migration. It looks very similar to what Feeds is doing for the reason because that's the flow that has been polished, and this is how we want to build it. So we're saying, let's say XML news import demo. Once we're done, the migration group can be assigned automatically, or you can change it, because migration group, for those who work with Migrate, the main purpose of migration groups, as I was explained, was to have change permissions. The permission are set on the migration group, so you don't have to have it in Feeds migrations, but you can assign it to different groups if you have them. And here we have option to import either from file or URL. We're not doing embedded data, but that can also connect to databases. You can do this is the same things that we just saw 5 minutes ago in the Feeds demo. You have option to import from file or from HTTP. You have option to select data parser. Right now we're doing XML. JSON is not, the coding for JSON is not finalized. So anyone who wants to contribute to make this work, please, there is URL where you can do it. And then this is where you're selecting destination. You can see that you have all the entities exposed. We're going to do node, and we're going to pick whatever we want to do. Right? So, and when I click button save, what it's doing is basically writing your YAML files in the system. So now I've got UI to write your YAML files. Developers who worked on this project said, well, this is very exciting, because as developers, it's not really that exciting to code another CSV migration. It's not something like really great and inspirational. We would much rather code supporting plugins or something that makes something very specific to our system or our use case. If we can delegate this kind of basic setup to junior developers, and we can play with some advanced stuff, right? Now, once you edit the migration, eventually it will automate it to an extent where you can this is a new tab that you don't have in migrations. Migrations do have some UI, but here mapping is not available there, and this is where you can add mapping. So you can add exactly like you do with Feeds. You can say, okay, title goes to title, and then you can define whether it's unique field or not, and then you can keep adding other fields, and we can look at what we have with list of our migrations. I think this one has more mapping than any others. You can see that it is compatible with existing migrations. So people who did work with Migrate, it's reasonably easy for them to navigate to the new system. Because one of the biggest challenges that we had, that Migrate developers know nothing about Feeds and not really excited about learning anything about it. And for Feeds developers, it's quite a steep learning curve to get through Migrate, because you have to learn so many things, and by the end of this learning curve, you're like, okay, then I'm just gonna keep using command line. And so as a result, site builders and content editors are caught up in this, like, well, you can't do this, you can't do this. So we can't have the flow that would be ideal scenario for us. So this is where we are right now. And then once we're done, we'll go to, in the similar way like we would go to add Feeds importer, exactly like this. We're saying, please add importer. I would like to add whatever we code it, advanced import for demo purposes. And then this is where I'm defining frequency. I'll say I want to import it every day, because every day we have new news or events we want to update, or we are saying if something is not there anymore, just remove it. So this is where we're replicating completely Feeds flow. It was a lot of work, and it was a lot of architectural decisions, and as I said, it's never enough thank you for people who volunteer their time to do that, because we don't have at this point the project that will support it. And then we pick whatever migration we want to run. In the same way, like we have content type, so we have feed type, and we have feeds migration type. And once we picked what we want, we're saying, okay, this is my URL where I'm going to get it from. And then this is configuration. This is already predefined. And then I click save, and it's supposed to save and import. And actually, it is supposed to do that, but this is one of the tickets in the issue, because right now you need to go back here and click import. And then, if we say enough right words and send our blessings, we expect that this things has been imported. And yeah, I can see that right now, today is October 3rd, all these events were updated and they're in. Okay? I can do rollback. I'm gonna say, okay, let me break this. I'm gonna roll back, which is supposed to take away all these events. And as we know with live demos, you cannot guarantee that it's gonna work as expected, so we can all witness either success or failure. And then it says we never imported anything, and let's check that all these things were actually deleted. Well, apparently they're not. So this is the demo of things that are not there yet, because the module right now has framework, it has architecture, and it has lots of issues that says change this button to make it say save and add mappings. Make sure that when we select update existing items, it actually updates existing items. It's not just a placeholder in the code, in the form. It actually does something. Because we have lots and lots of places where something is supposed to work, but it's not connected. Because you need to connect form with a migrate function. Okay? Let's see, if we want to import it again, we will see whether it will start. So it is bringing things in. So this part works fine, but deleting doesn't work right now. So this is where I want to, maybe in presenting mode, expand mode. Yes, it is compatible with migrating structure. And these are features that already work. We have capabilities, you saw, to add migrate. We have a mapping UI worked through, and we have documentation and roadmap. However, as you can imagine, there's a lot of help that's still needed. And we have very specifically identified issues that are small enough so a developer who is familiar with migrate can pick it up and work on it. Okay. We have also wish list where we didn't even started looking at it, because eventually someday, when in the perfect world, hopefully it all will work. And then there are a couple of related core issues that are in some way blockers to doing all the things that we want. So you're cordially invited to look at them, comment on them, talk to developers, and help. Okay? Thank you very much. This is my presentation, and I wanted to open thing for questions.
So one of the issues there is the tamper or tamper plugin or Irina. So Feeds Tamper and 8 is assigned a demo, you running that, and that's, are getting good luck with the existing plugins in there?
So here's what's going on with tempers in feeds. So right now when we're doing, this is my feed site, right? So here, if I want to add a temper plugin, there's not that many. We have many more in Drupal 7.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons, so when I started using feeds, number one, feeds were not ready altogether 3 years ago. Then Yuri volunteered a lot of time to make it all work. Then we worked with James Dixon and a couple of other people, Edmund, I don't remember everyone, but I want to thank everyone for contributing tempers. And so we have some selection now. But then because we started this Feeds Migrate initiative, it doesn't make too much sense to have all the plugins in core and then have parallel structure in feeds. And so feeds maintainer Yuri Van Hoven is working towards merging this UI so that they can work together, because then it's much less code to maintain. And this is why we're like, this is the perfect time to come and help with Feeds Migrate, because then you don't need to code tempers in for feeds and then separately tempers for migrations. Because all the code is already sitting in migrate model and capabilities in there. And last week, Martin Kierman completed the architecture for process plugins. It is this, this is this queue, this one. This is most recent branch. So if you're a developer and you know migrate, I can talk a little bit about where we need the most of the help right now. So this is the queue, and we have Benji. So I talked to Benji Fisher yesterday, and he started looking into that. So these are things that where we're looking for the most help right now. So this is, the form is already in place, as far as I know, and it's sitting in the in this branch. So we have GitHub branch where we work in parallel with the Drupal.org. Once patches are ready, we just push it out there. So these are skills that we would love to have in the person who would like to volunteer. Because we all know that learning migrate is a very steep learning curve, and if you're trying to help here and you need to learn the entire migrate, it's just very challenging. And these are remaining tasks that we are looking help with the most. Okay, and these are steps, and you already did very nice write-up, like what do you need step by step. So you have Drupal 8, you download, this is the module, and it will tell you what's required underneath. So you would need migrate tools, migrate, and you don't need feeds to run feeds migrate. So it's all built on migrate and migrate plus, because the goal is, hopefully maybe, to feeds be just UI for the migrate. Because right now feeds has this great UI, and then you have migrate there anyway, so it's there. But then you have two parallel structures, like more code, more things to fix, maintain more stuff. And the less code we have, the better quality, the better is for everyone. So this is where our main target is going, main target and main effort. We're going to be doing presentation in Amsterdam in 2 weeks, and we want to let people know about this module. So if you have an upcoming migration in your project, this is not really 100% ready for you to just use it, but I think that you can benefit in some way. And if there's like small thing that you can say, oh, if we fix this, then we can use it for our project, then you will save yourself money, and also you will contribute to open source where other people can save money and contribute to your project.
how's it handling files? Does it do that right now with the migrate?
In terms of, like,
Or is it, so with feeds in 7 and 8, right, you can say like the file path is off here and then kind of chunks through and it's really nice.
yeah, this is where, you can do that. So here you define data fetcher. So if you say I want to import from file, then
okay,
this is you just upload file. This UI is not 100% optimized for everything, so it would be defined in here. So there's lots of work that we need to do. We know what to do, but we don't have enough people to do that. Like, you can't execute migration here from this screen because it doesn't have the source. So the execute button doesn't mean anything, so we need to add additional, like if this is defined as feeds migration, then instead of execute text, you need to say create feed and add source. So there's a lot of things like this, but here, if I'm saying this is file, and this is file upload, so that was, which one? It's a news importer. So here, if I'm doing news importer, that will allow you to upload file. So it will tell you that upload file is required, and you just click a button and get it for you.
How much of this exports to configuration?
I don't have a good answer, but I think everything, because this is a migration.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go to your, let's look at development, I am 99% sure that if you find here the right entity, it should be exportable just like anything else. Because the beauty of this approach is that it combines, we're not building anything like new per se. We're using everything that is already exists in Drupal, and Yuri was very particular about working with existing standards, existing structures, so if somebody comes on board, they don't need to learn new Drupal concepts. Whatever is architecture and core, Feeds is following, and Feeds Migrate is following the same convention, same flow. It's a very good question. Now I'm very interested myself what's the answer. Let's see, migration. Here it is. Like, I don't know if it answers all your questions, but probably has to be more, because migrations can be changed, and this UI does not address every single aspect of migration. It just addresses like top of the iceberg. And this is, we were doing demo with a site form that was built by UCs for UCs. So if you're in UC and you're planning on doing some export import operations, please consider working with this module. Okay. Any other?
Are we going to have access to your slides?
I think so. I will double check that the URL is in the session, and also I think recording will be up there soon.
Okay, you can also post a file to the.
Okay. Okay. I will upload either PowerPoint or a link to Google Slides. I'm pretty sure they're public. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.